Navigating the vast world of logistics can be daunting. With data pouring in from every direction, it can be challenging to make quick decisions. One way is to have a dashboard that displays your key metrics in real time, allowing you to know what to do next. Hi, I'm Kevin from Budibase, and I want to show you how to build a dashboard just like that, turning your raw data into actionable insights. Let's have a look at what we're building. This is a logistics dashboard that's focusing on two key areas, delivery times and costs. And it has 5 places where it works from: Anaheim, Beijing, Belfast, Frankfurt, and New York. You can see for delivery time and cost, we've got a page for each. And in each page, we have this selection of summary statistics cards that are relevant to that category. So for cost, we've got total spend, difference of budget from last month, percentage of orders, and percentage of budget used. We've got this bar chart showing those 3 metrics of total actual cost, total estimated cost, and total spend difference on each of the centers that we're monitoring. And we have this graph showing percentage overspend and budget used for all of the centers combined. For delivery times, we have cards showing key delivery metrics. We have graphs showing those key metrics in the different centers. And we have this combined average difference and percentage late. Let's build that together step by step. As normal, when building with Budibase, we'll start on our dashboard and we'll click on Create New App. We've got the option to use one of the many templates that are available. We can import an app from somewhere else, or as we're going to do today, we'll start from scratch. I'll call this Logistics and Create App. Everything in Budibase starts with the data, getting the data into our application and then presenting it to our user and allowing them to interact with it. If you don't have a data source already, you can use Budibase's internal database to be able to create your own. Your data may be available as a set of REST API endpoints, relational databases or non-relational, or even spreadsheets like Airtable or Google Sheets. I'm going to use a Postgres database, and so I'll need to fill in the data for that. My host string, my database name, my username, and my password. Now, this particular provider requires me to have SSL engaged, and then I'll click Connect. Once we've connected, we'll be presented with a list of the tables that are available inside of this database that we can decide to fetch. We can fetch one of them or many of them. For now, I'm just going to check deliveries and fetch tables. On the left-hand side, I can access this table. And here I can see all of the data that currently exists on my database, where it's sourced from, arrival date, estimated days, cost, departure, lots of information that's there. Now that I have the data, I can start to build the user experience. So we'll click into the Design tab and we'll click on Blank Screen. We'll be prompted to give a URL for our screen. And for this, we're going to call it Delivery Times. I'll click Continue. And then I'll have the option to set the role-based access control. Basic means our users have to log in. Public means they don't. And Power and Admin are both elevated roles that we can use to segment our application. I'll leave it at Basic and click Done. Now that we have a blank screen, we can start to add components. The first thing we'll do is we'll add a container component. So I'll add a container. And this is going to be my summary card container. Within this, I'm going to place 3 card blocks. 1, 2, 3. We see them over here. And what they're doing is they're taking the data source that we have, in this case, the deliveries table, and they're iterating over it, presenting a card for each row. By default, they limit it to 8. We can paginate and then be able to see all of the other cards that are there. And we can reach into each row and give relevant details to appear on these cards rather than just title, subtitle, and description. When we're done, we want a single card that's going to tell us the number of departures, the average number of days behind schedule or ahead of schedule, and the percentage of deliveries that have been late. So to manage that, we're going to create a custom query. So I'm going to go back to data. I'm going to click on PostgreSQL, Queries, and create new query. I'm going to call this my delivery summary card query. And there are 5 pieces of information I want to get from the table. The first is the numerical month, the current numerical year, the count of entries that match this month, the average time difference between the actual delivery date and the expected or estimated delivery date, and the percentage of entries where the delivery date is greater than the estimate. We'll group them by month and year and then sort them by the year and month ascending. Let's do that. While I'll create this query now, this query and all of the queries that we'll look at during this tutorial are available in the accompanying blog post. You can copy and paste it if you understand what we're doing. So the first is the numerical month. So I'm going to cast, extract, month from departure date as an integer and call that month. Then I want to get the year of the delivery. So extract year from departure date as year. Next, I want to count how many departures there were. And that's literally just how many are in our table. So departure count. The average distance, so round the average. I want to extract the day from the arrival date minus the departure date. I need to make sure that we know that's a real number. And from that, I'm going to take away the estimated days. I'm going to call that the average difference. The last thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to count however many there are. I'm going to filter where extract day from the arrival date minus the departure date. And again, I'll make sure that's a real number. And I want that to be when that's greater than the estimated days. So when we've failed to meet our target, it's going to be a float. So we got our decimals. I'll divide it by the total count. So I'll give them my percentage as a decimal. So I just need to times that by 100 and call that as percentage late. So there are my 5 bits of information I want to get. I need to say which table I want them from. So that's from my deliveries table. I'm going to group them by, and then I want to group them by month and date. So month from our departure date, and then our year from our departure date. And then finally, I'm going to order them. So order by, and then the same thing, order by year first of all. So copy this and do that in ascending order, and then by month. Do that in ascending order. So if I now click on Run Query, I can see that now, month 10, 2022, there are 3 counts. The average distance was 244, and the percentage rate was 66%. So this is the first entry. If I click on Schema, I can see that these are numbers. This is a text. These are numbers as well. But I can also set the value going forward so that our UI knows what data type it is. And if I click on Preview, I'm going to see all of the data. It's sorted by year and the month. And we can see those 5 bits of data. The numeric month, the numeric year, how many departures there were, the average difference, and the percentage late. Awesome. I'll save that query now. And I can now go to the front end into design. And in my card block, I'm going to set the data to delivery summary card. And I want to filter this to be just this month. So I'll add a filter, and I'll set the filter of month to equal a binding of this month. Now, there are 2 ways we can get this month. I can either use the handlebars notation, the helper, the date helper that we have to be able to help us do that. And then we can format that in the right way. Or we can use JavaScript. I'm going to use JavaScript here. So say const current date equals new date. And I'll return the current date dot get month. Now, there's 0 index in JavaScript, so I'll need to add 1. And then I'll save and save. Now, this has 2 cards in it. And that's because this month, month 10, October, appears in 2 years. So we need to add a year filter as well. So we'll add a filter to year, a binding. We'll do a JavaScript function for this year. So again, so const current date equals new date. And then we'll return current date dot get full year. We'll save that. And now I have a single card in this card block. So I'll scroll down the card block to the title, and I'm going to change the title to be our cards block, and this is going to be our departure account, and I'll save. I'll change the subtitle to departures, and I'll remove the description. Now I need to do the same thing for the other two blocks. Change the query, add the filters, and update the title and subtitle. So -52 days behind means we're 52 days ahead. And then for the last one, same thing, update the data source, add in the filters, and update the title and subtitle. Now, instead of using handlebars, we could use JavaScript to round that. So I just return the percentage late, change that to fixed 2 decimal places, and then add a percentage to the end of it. There's my cards. If I click on the container, I can orientate them horizontally, remove that description, and we've got that first section of our application finished. We're just missing this headline. Let's add a headline. So we'll stick just above our summary cards, and we will use JavaScript to create this month. And how are we working out this month? Well, we're getting the current month and the current year in the same way we've done before. So we'll create the current month. So current date equals new date. And we will do current date dot get month and add on 1 hyphen, and then very similar, copy that, current date dot get full year. So now for the graph. This chart is showing the average difference and the percentage late over time, but this time it's grouping it for this year and by region. So we're going to need a new query that we're then going to graph. So we'll go back to our data tab and we'll go to PostgreSQL queries and we'll create a new query. It's going to be our delivery stats by source and by year. Again, these queries will be in the accompanying blog post, but we basically going to use the exact same query before with a couple of modifications. So we're going to select the source. We're going to get the year. We're going to round the arrival date minus the departure date, estimated days, or average difference. We're then going to work out how many are percentage late. This time we're just grouping by the year and the source, and we're just ordering by the departure year and the departure source. So if I run that query, I get the first item, Anaheim 2022. If I click the preview, I can see all of the data, so by region and by year. And the schema then allows me to declare the types if they haven't been inferred properly. So I'll click Save, and now I'll go to my Design tab. I'm going to add a chart block this time, and we'll need to configure it before it can show the right thing. The first thing I'll do is I'll do my query. I'll choose my chart type, so it's going to be a bar chart, and then we need to set some data. So the label column, we're going to set to be the source, and the data column, we're going to set to be the average difference and the percentage late. Now, this is showing me all of the data I have, and you see each of the sources are being repeated. But I want just the data from this year. So I'll scroll further up and I'll go to filters. I'm going to add one of those filters in. So I'm going to get year to equal a binding of this year. So I'll do my JavaScript const current date equals new date. And I'm going to return current date dot get full year and save that. So now we just have the data from this year, and we'll just add a headline above to describe what we're showing. So add our headline. This is going to be our JavaScript. return. So create a new date, return this year, and in brackets, we'll do current date dot get full year. Okay. We're going to add one more chart to this screen, and this time we're going to create a line graph that will show our trend in average difference and percentage lateness over time. That's month by month. We don't really need a new query for this because we could just use our stats card. So let's do that. So I'm just going to add a charts block. It's going to be a line graph. The data is just going to be my summary card data. I'll set the label column to month. I'll set the data columns to average difference and percentage late. So every time I refresh this page, it's fetching the data from the database and displaying these key metrics. So I have a live dashboard telling me how we're doing on these key metrics. Our second screen is going to use pretty much the same format. So we're going to duplicate the whole screen. So I'll go up here, I'll duplicate the screen, and this time I'll just call it costs. So we're going to start to swap out the cost for the appropriate data. So this time we're actually going to show 4 cards. We'll have our total spend, the difference between our total spend and our total estimated spend. We'll have our percentage of deliverables that have gone over budget and the percentage of the overall budget that's being used. And so we'll create an overspend by month query. So let's do that. So we'll go to Postgres, queries, we'll call it overspend by month. So I'll paste in the query we're using, and we can see it looks very similar. We're getting the month and the year for each row. We're working out the total spend. We're working out the spend difference. We're counting and filtering whether or not they are overspend and then dividing that by the whole total to work out the percentage overspend. And then we're doing the total sum divided by the estimated cost and times that by percentage to work out the percentage of our budget that we've used. So I run that query. As normal, we'll get one piece of data, the first record. We'll get our schema where we can set any of the types that we want to make sure that are particularly configured. And we'll get preview, which is showing us all of the data. So I'll save that. I'll go to my design tab in my cost, and I'll start switching these over. So overspend by month. So my title this time is going to be my overspend. So new cards block, total spend. So it's going to be our total spend. I probably want to put a pound sign before that as well. Next going to be the total budget difference. So my title, do the total budget difference. Again, put a pound sign in front of that. Third one, change the query. This is going to be our percentage of things, our percentage of orders that were over budget. Do new card block, percentage overspend, and save. That's of orders over budget. I've got one more, so I'll just duplicate this card block. Set this to wrap so it goes down when it needs to. And this is going to be my percentage of the budget spent. So I'll return percentage of budget used to fixed to plus %. Awesome. So I've got my summary cards. Now I want to change out my chart. So we want a query that returns the source, the total estimated cost, the total actual cost, the total spend difference, and the numerical month. So let's go and create a new query. So queries, new query. We'll call this our overspend by source. So I'm going to select a source, the numerical year, the total spend difference, the total actual cost, the total estimated cost. I'm going to group by year and source and order by year and source. If I run it, get what I want, looks good, so I can save it. So if I go back now to my design tab, go to my chart, I'll change the data to be this overspend by source. I'll change the label this time to be source, and the data columns I'll set to be the 3 bits of data. So we can see our total spend, our total actual cost, and our total estimated cost based on each of the sources that we have. Lastly is our line graph, and we want this to show the trend over the course of this year for our budget utilization. Specifically, we want to show a total percentage of deliveries that overspend and total percentage of our budget that we've used each month. So we'll do another query. So Postgres queries, create new query. So we're going to get the month, the year, the overspend, and the percentage budget used. We're going to get them grouped by the month and the date. So grouped overspend by month. Run the query. Looks good. Save it. We can go to our design tab and update our line graph now. So use the right data, our grouped overspend by month, and set our data label to be a percentage overspend and a percentage budget. So the last thing we want to do is maybe tidy up our design a little bit. So we want the links up here. So I'll go to navigation, configure links. We change that to delivery times and add a link in for our costs. So costs and save. Looks good. We might want to go and change our theme. So you might want it to be darker. Looks a little bit nicer, I think. And finally, you can, for each of the charts, you can go and have a look at the color palettes and decide if there's a color palette that you prefer that shows your data a bit clearly. I quite like color palette 1, but you might decide different. With that done then, we now have a dashboard where we can monitor costs for this month, track them visually over time in different contexts, by month and by region. We have a similar thing for our delivery times. What's happening this month, this year, and tracking that data in different ways. You can obviously build a logistics dashboard that fits your needs rather than the ones that are presented here. Hopefully this gives you some ideas for how you might be able to use Budibase in your day-to-day work to help turn your data into action. We'll link to the blog post and hope to see you again here soon. Thanks. Bye.